There is a moment, most people never notice it, when explaining yourself stops being communication and becomes something else entirely. It becomes a confession, not of guilt, of something quieter, something the human brain gives away without permission. The moment you feel the need to justify your decision to someone who did not ask for justification, you have already shifted the balance of power in that conversation. And you did it yourself. Most people grow up believing that explanation equals respect, that if you share your reasons, people will understand you better, trust you more, think more highly of you. This belief feels rational. It feels mature even. But psychology tells a different story. When you explain yourself without being asked, something happens in the mind of the person listening. They do not simply receive information. They receive power. Because now they know what you need. They know you need their understanding, their approval, their agreement. And once someone knows what you need, without you realizing you gave it to them, the dynamic in that relationship quietly shifts. This is not rare. It happens in offices, in conversations between friends, in relationships, in negotiations. It happens every single day. And the people most vulnerable to it are often the most thoughtful, most self-aware individuals in the room, because they genuinely believe that being understood is always a good thing. Sometimes it is. But understanding comes with a cost that most people never calculate before they pay it. Mechanism 1. The approval loop. The human brain is wired for social validation. Neuroscientists call this a deeply embedded survival mechanism. For most of human history, being accepted by a group meant safety. Being rejected meant danger. That wiring has not changed. What has changed is the environment. Today, when you explain your choices to someone, why you said no, why you left, why you chose differently, your brain is often not seeking understanding. It is seeking relief. It wants the discomfort of potential disapproval to end. But here is what the research reveals. The more you explain, the more you signal that their opinion carries weight over your decisions. And the more weight you assign to someone's opinion, the more influence they hold, whether they earned it or not. Mechanism 2. Justification as vulnerability. Psychologists who study social behavior have observed a consistent pattern. When a person justifies a decision unprompted, listeners unconsciously begin to evaluate whether the justification is good enough. Notice what just happened. You were not on trial, but the moment you began explaining, an invisible jury formed. This is not the fault of the listener. It is a natural cognitive response. When someone offers a reason, the mind automatically assesses that reason. Suddenly, your decision is no longer yours alone. It belongs, even briefly, to whoever is listening. Mechanism 3. The confidence signal. Perception research shows that people who explain themselves less are often perceived as more confident, more trustworthy, and more competent, even when they know less than the person explaining everything. This is not about arrogance. It is about what silence communicates. When you act without defending every step, your behavior sends a quiet signal. I made this decision and I do not require your validation for it to be valid. That signal registers in the minds of others before a single word is spoken. Mechanism 4. The endless demand. There is a pattern that emerges in certain relationships, personal and professional, where one person explains themselves once and the other person receives that explanation as an invitation to expect explanations always. What began as transparency becomes an unspoken contract, and contracts, once established, are difficult to exit without friction. Scenario 1. A person declines a social invitation. They say simply, "I can't make it." The other person waits. Silence. So the first person adds, "I've just been really exhausted lately, and I have an early morning, and I wasn't sure if..." The more they speak, the more the other person tilts their head, listens, then calmly offers a counter-argument for why they should come anyway. The explanation became the opening. Scenario 2. In a workplace setting, someone makes a strategic decision their colleague disagrees with. Instead of standing by the decision, they spend 10 minutes walking through every reason, every data point, every consideration. By the end, their colleague has identified 3 points to push back on, points that would never have existed if the decision had simply been made and moved forward. The explanation created the debate. Scenario 3. In a relationship, one person begins explaining their emotional needs, clearly, thoughtfully, at length. The listener does not respond with understanding. Instead, they respond with a counter list of their own needs. What was meant to open a conversation becomes a negotiation, and the person who spoke first is now on the defensive. Their openness was genuine, but the outcome was not what they anticipated. None of this means you should become cold, withholding, or suspicious of every conversation. It means something more precise. Learn to distinguish between explanation that builds connection and explanation that drains authority. The first sign that you may be over-explaining is a feeling, a subtle anxiety that someone has not yet approved of your decision. Notice that feeling. It is valuable information, not because it means you are wrong, but because it tells you that external approval has become part of your decision-making process. The second sign is repetition. When you find yourself re-explaining the same choice to the same person more than once, the issue is rarely clarity. It is approval seeking in a different form. Protecting yourself from this pattern does not require confrontation. It requires stillness. Respond to questions that are actually asked. Let silence exist without filling it. When you make a decision, let the decision speak before you do. You can be warm, open, and connected without making your inner reasoning public by default. Here is what psychology consistently shows us. People do not respect decisions more because they understand them. They respect decisions that appear to need no external confirmation. This is not about building walls. It is about understanding that every time you explain yourself to someone who did not ask, you are not building understanding. You are handing them a map to your uncertainty. And some people, consciously or not, will use that map. The quiet tower of keeping your own counsel is not distance. It is clarity. It is knowing the difference between a conversation that deserves your full truth and a silence that deserves nothing at all. Once you see that difference, you stop filling every silence with apology. And something in the way people see you, quietly, without either of you naming it, begins to change.